As I go deeper into my own journey, I want to do everything I can to have the deepest experience I possibly can when it comes to God. How many are in that boat? Yeah. And it's kind of like what I've been doing for a long time in the services is I kind of just come into the meditation and then I just do whatever's in my heart, and then you get whatever's in my heart. And what I'm wanting to do actually, though, is change things up a little bit moving forward, and that is I kind of want to talk about whatever I'm going to talk about, and then I want to take you and have the experience of going into a meditation so that hopefully you can have a little bit of a taste of that talk. Does that make sense? So just understand we're just switching things up a little bit, and please let me know how that feels to you, and we'll kind of go from there. So today's talk is called The Lessons from the Lake, and it starts off with Leah and I being invited to stay at a cabin on the lake for a few days. And so over Labor Day weekend, we packed up all of our stuff and off we headed to the lake. And we had never been to this lake before, so we had really no idea at all what to expect. So we kind of went over there open-hearted and open-minded and say, hey, you just never know. Especially with Labor Day weekend, you're concerned that it's a lake, there could be a lot of people and a lot of stuff and a lot of noise. And so you just don't know, right? And so we were completely, again, just open and grateful for the gift. And so we went. And we arrived early in the afternoon. And after checking everything out and getting settled, it was already pretty much late afternoon. And the lake itself was beautiful and gorgeous. And so we had dinner and we sat around and we were able to experience a little bit of the sunset. But really that first day was just us arriving, getting all our stuff in, settling into the cabin, and just getting a feel for where we were at. And then the next morning, of course, because I don't care if I'm on vacation, I'm probably going to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning because that's just what I do. Maybe not quite that early. Maybe I slept in like a half hour or something, but it was early. And there was actually steam coming off of the lake, kind of like, this isn't me, by the way, that picture is not me, but it kind of looked like that a little bit, and the sun definitely had not. And as I sat there, there was like this incredible, deep feeling of peace that I had. It was just palpable to me. It was like, wow, man, is this strong here. And I felt like all of a sudden there was something that showed up. But I really wasn't sure what was going on. All I know is I'm standing there, it's early, I'm the only one that's out there, there's this beautiful lake, and we're kind of hanging out. Kind of like getting to know each other. And this feeling or the sense just started getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And as I sat there, there was absolutely no doubt in my mind that this presence was letting me know that it was there. And as I sat there, what it literally felt like to me was that this lake had a spirit, and the spirit was starting to talk to me. And really what it was doing, it was welcoming me. And just letting it know, hey, this is a pretty special place. And actually, as I sat there longer, I heard this voice. It sounded something like, oh, and by the way, if you want to play, I might have some things to show you while you're here. And I'm like, sign me up. Let's go do this, right? And so I sat there and I closed my eyes. And when I did, it was like my entire being was filled with this incredible energy and this presence. And once I accepted the invitation, I felt like what was happening was that any type of blocks that I had at all regarding I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough, I don't know how to hear this, I don't know how to process this, I'm not sure if this is really Spirit speaking to me, I don't know if this is my imagination, gone. And the experience that I was having was a real conversation, and this lake, if you can imagine, was holding me in its presence. And over the course of the next few days, it was like this conversation with this benevolent guide that was showing me these different things that it wanted to show me. And I could feel it just like I'm standing here right now. It was very, very real to me. And it was fun. It was playful. It was gentle. It was loving. It was compassionate. It was all those things, just like you are, just like we are. And it was no mistake to me that this spirit had a personality. No questions asked to me. This thing was amazing. And it was willing and wanting to really share with me. It kind of felt like, hey, let's play. Let's do this. Let's do this. It almost felt like it had been waiting for a while, if you will, for someone to kind of hang out and play with it. Like, I got a new buddy now, let's go play with this person, right? And that's kind of what it felt like. And the thing that was overwhelming to me was that it was, what it felt like is this peace. Like, that was the big overall writing lesson to me, was what the lake was sharing with me was, I can teach you what peace is. Because when I was standing there, it was so powerful and undeniable that it was like, well, of course that's what you're going to teach me. And what it felt like, what it sounded like, and how I could play with it and engage with it and experience it. So now I'm all in. I'm sitting there going like, oh yeah, we are going to do this. This is going to be really, really, really super. And so I sat there, and what happened was, throughout the course of the few days that we were there, the messages just started to pour in. And there was something about being at this lake that simply opened me up. And the ability for it to communicate with me at a level that I had never experienced before was absolutely stunning. And it created within me, I became this receiver, and it helped me hold that vibration solidly while I was there, where I could hear everything that was being shared in such a clear way. And I was in awe as I experienced this. And so I became very aware, okay, I'm having this experience. I'm not going crazy. This is real. And I can either sit there and accept this amazing gift. And by the way, it was my birthday. And I can accept that gift, or I can ignore it. And so I'm like, oh no, I'm not missing this one. And so what I realized is that the lake had a tendency to talk to me in a lot of different ways. So it could talk to me through a book that I brought that I'm going to share with you. It could talk to me through my meditations. I had walks with my wife, and all of a sudden I could just feel the lake's presence. I went for a couple of runs when I was there, and I could feel it when I was going for runs around the lake. It just kept coming, because I just opened myself up to it, to receive it. And I'm like, yeah, bring it, bring it, bring it, bring it. I'm here. I'm with you. And so I'm going to share with you a couple of thoughts. And when I tell you that we don't have enough time this morning for me to share with you everything the lake shared with me, but I'm going to share with you the ones that really stuck out to me. And the first thing that the lake taught me was that this peace that I was experiencing, number one, was always available to me. It's always here, always. And that all I needed to do was to slow down, just slow down, enough to let it in and to receive it. And the lake was helping me realize this, to realize how easy it was to receive this love and the peace when I slowed down. Slow down, slow down, slow down. I'm here, always. And that this peace that I was experiencing really was God's gift to me. And it was showing me how easy it was. And when I realized how good the lake was at doing this, and how happy it was to show me this trick, if you will, because I was open to receiving it. I felt like the lake was telling me, hey, Mike, this is God's gift to you when you're willing to slow down and open yourself up to receiving these gifts, because they're always there. And so each morning, I would get up, go down to the lake, hang out, and feel the lake, and then feel the presence, and feel whatever else the lake wanted to show me. And at certain times, all I can tell you is like it just felt like I had these arms being wrapped around me in such a powerful way. And it was a gift, and it was a gift. And so every time that I connected, every time that I slowed down, I was filled with this presence, with this peace, with the serenity, and I didn't need to do anything other than receive it. That's all I needed to do, right? And let it happen. And what I noticed is when I would let it happen and I would be there, that for the rest of the day, if you will, it was like I felt like my battery got charged. And so I would come out of these times, and it was interesting because it felt like there was just a small window of time when it happened in the morning. In other words, once the sun came up and everybody got active on the lake and people started moving around, it felt like that small window was gone. But for that little slice at that time in the morning, it was so real and so powerful. The second lesson the lake showed me, which kind of surprised me to be honest with you, I didn't expect it to say this, but what the lake shared with me was that I really didn't need the lake in order to have this experience. And I was like, yeah, but I love you. I love the lake. I love to feel this. And I love feeling like I got a buddy of mine that I can go hang out with in the morning that's going to help me experience all this peace and all the good stuff. In other words, spirit. And it was like, I was sitting there going like, well, what do you mean I don't need you to do this? This has been profound for me. And it was interesting because it was just hard for me to imagine not having it there in the lake. What I heard was, while I'm glad to help you in truth, you can recreate this experience anytime, anywhere. All you need to do is set your intention and go into the silence. If you'll just do those two things, set your intention, go into the silence. And in a sense, the lake will then come to me. And I was like, oh. And it went on to say, it's really, really easy because this is who you are. See, you don't think this is who you are, but in truth and in light, Mike, this is who you are. This is what your experience is. This is what your expression is. But we've been made to believe we're anything but that. We chose to come down here and believe we're less than. We were born in original sin. We're disconnected from our divinity. We're disconnected from God and all this other stuff that has been put on us over years and decades and centuries. This has been what we have been doing in this lifetime that I talked about earlier. It's like we're shedding all these beliefs and we're finally getting to the truth of who and what we are, which is you're a divine child of God, of spirit, of source. I don't care what you call it. Call it anything you want to, whatever feels good to you. I like God. Call it whatever you want to, but that's who we are connected with. We are part of it. It is part of us. And there's a part that's inside of us that when we start paying attention to that, we will start to grow that relationship and we'll start to have different experiences than we've ever had before. At least that's the way it worked for me. And that's when it clicked in that really what the lake was trying to tell me all along was that the lake wasn't necessarily giving me anything outside of myself. Actually, what the lake was doing, well, it was awakening what was already within me. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, you're sneaky. You're sneaky. And it's so through this peace, through this joy, and through this alignment that really they weren't accidents. This guidance was coming from Spirit, reminding me who I am, reminding us who we are. And as I was pondering what was happening to me, I started to think about Henry David Thoreau, who wrote the book Walden. Anybody familiar with that one? Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, Thoreau was read and quoted often by the Fillmores and other New Thought leaders throughout the years. And Thoreau was an American writer, a philosopher, and a naturalist. In 1845, he packed up all his stuff. He didn't have very much stuff at all. But he retreated to a small cabin he built on the shores of Walden Pond in Concord, Massachusetts. And he lived there for 2 years. And he just wanted to live life simply. He wanted to let go of all the trappings of everything. And he decided, and his reflections became the book Walden in 1854, which is now considered a classic of American literature. And he used this time just to realize what true living was. And he felt that true living had nothing to do with big houses and big toys and big jobs and everything else like that. He believed that life should be lived simply, and that we should focus more on living our lives and living a high quality life and having deep, meaningful connections and focusing on that more than anything else like that. And that's what he spent 2.5 years doing, and spending time on Walden's Pond. And as I started to contemplate that, I'm imagining him sitting at Walden's Pond having an experience like I'm having out on the cabin, and I'm just kind of laughing, going like, I think I get it. I think I finally understand it. I think I get what he was trying to say. Because what he discovered in that stillness of the woods was that this idea of silence is not emptiness. And I think that's what happens sometimes, even for people who've never been exposed to this stuff, is that we think, well, when we go into silence, there's not going to be anything there. And he realized just the opposite of that, that actually it's full. And it's really your doorway to spirit, is by going in and spending time in silence. And when he said that he realized the silence is not emptiness, I just fully understood what he was talking about. Because to me, certainly, the idea of going into silence is not empty at all. It was so rich. It was so full. It was alive. It was alive. And it wanted to share with me, speak with me, show me what I needed to do, what I could learn from. And I want to just say this. It wasn't loud. It wasn't forced. It was given in such a beautiful and tender way that I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't. And in Unity, we teach that silence is where God speaks most clearly, beyond the chatter of the mind. And that's why we really emphasize silence so much here, which is really funny if you think about it. And I've said this before, that the most powerful thing that Unity teaches is nothing. In other words, get out of here, go into the silence, and go here. That's what it is, right? And just as Thoreau found wisdom on the quiet shores of Walden, we too can actually enter meditation and discover that silence really isn't silent at all. It's alive with the voice of truth. The next thing I wanted to share with you was one more thing before we go into the meditation, is I brought a book with me. By the way, this book is in the lobby, and it's called Jesus, My Autobiography. And for those of you who have read it, it's a powerful book. But I just wanted to share with you the part that I happened to land on. It's time for you now to begin to act in accord with that which you are, which is a divine aspect of God mind. You are an idea in the mind of God. You have a guidance system that is infallible, that can take you wherever you wish to go, but you must understand how it works. You must understand that when you feel bad, you've had a thought that is out of alignment with truth. You must understand that your guidance system leads you to your path through passion, through feeling good, through feeling happy. God wants you to be happy. This force, this benevolent force, is not a being, it's a vibration. When you are in accord with that vibration, loving what you do, loving the beings around you, loving yourself, it's simple. You feel good. When you are out of accord with this vibration, judging others, hiding from life, and hating yourself, you feel bad. And that is what you must understand. When you feel good, you're in the right place and you're doing the right thing. When you feel bad, you have stepped off the path, and your guidance system, this divine reflective device that is telling you how well you are doing on your journey, will let you know that you've stepped off your path. And it will do that through a negative emotion. And it was like, I've heard this whole law of attraction thing. I've heard about the emotional guidance system, but I don't know if I've ever had it speak to me quite that loudly, and for me to understand it. This idea, this understanding that we have thoughts in our head, and those thoughts in our heads create an emotion, and that emotion can be positive and good and feeling good and everything else like that, but it can also be negative. And then it's just becoming more and more aware of my feelings, more aware of what's going on inside of me, becoming aware of when I'm in alignment, when I'm out of alignment. And it was just like, oh, That was it. That was the one thing that I didn't fully understand before, was it's just to fully know that it's not that you're wrong, it's not that you're bad, it's not that you're stupid. No, it just means that you're thinking something that's not in truth. And then, oh, well then, what would be truth in this moment? And then trying to figure that out, and then coming and bringing yourself back. And how can you tell when you land on the truth? Because of the way that you feel. So, what I'd like to do now is to talk for just a moment about taking these lessons that I've learned and applying them to your life. And here are some thoughts and ideas that I would invite you to consider. For yourself, create daily silence. If you don't do this, don't think, okay, I'm going to go meditate for the next hour and a half. Don't do that to yourself. Don't. 5 minutes. Can you give yourself 5 minutes a day to just turn off your phone, set it down, and just become and start to practice this idea or thought of being in silence. No agenda, just silence. And let Spirit fill your battery. Can you set an intention anywhere? You don't need a lake. You don't need a retreat. You don't need perfect conditions in order to start doing this. You don't. Simply say, Spirit, I'm open. I open myself to peace. Go into silence. When I first started meditating the way that I did it, just so everybody knows, is it was simple. I sat down with the candle, I lit the candle, and I sat there and looked at the candle for 5 minutes. 45 years later, now I sit here for 45 minutes or an hour and meditate. But it took me 45 years to get there. Start small. Don't make this such a huge gap that it's just, I can't. Start slow. And finally, notice your guidance system. And that just means paying attention to how you feel. See what's going on, and if you feel contracted, it's often a sign you're out of alignment. And if you feel peace or joy, that's Spirit's way of saying, hey, come further. This is the way. I'm showing you how to do this. Follow me. You know, when I think back at the first morning at the lake, what I remembered most is the overwhelming sense of peace that wrapped itself around me. And I now know that it wasn't just the lake, that it was God's presence reminding me that peace is always available. All I needed to do is be still. You don't have to wait to find your lake. You don't have to wait to find your space. You don't have to wait to do this or have this experience. You carry the sacred within you. Each and every one of us has this inside of ourselves. We all do. You can return to that peace at any moment. It's simply a choice. Do I want this? And then you practice doing what we've talked about. So this week, I invite you that when life feels noisy or overwhelming, remember the lake. Remember the story. Remember the silence. Remember the Spirit is waiting for you, I should say, to fill your battery. And if you only pause long enough to receive it, it will show up. Why? Because of who and what you are. That's why. And when you do, you may find yourself held guided and renewed in the presence of peace. And just know that this invitation is an ongoing one that you can always, always, always accept. All you have to do is just say, I'm all in. Let's go. So, what I'd like to do at this time is do a meditation with you and hopefully help you settle into the relaxation of what it was like for me to be by the lake.